Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel and podcast. We are back with another match reaction, this time for the Champions League draw against PSG. I am your host tonight, Chris, joined by Ian and Daniel. Boys, I think we've got a lot to get off with chess, so we're going to dive straight into it. I'll start with you, Dan. I think we're pretty much assumed that what the starting 11 was going to be. Eddie Howe doesn't have much option there at this moment in time, so I think we'll all guess that it was going to be the same starting 11, which obviously played against Chelsea. Only possible change could have probably been Lewis Hall, but that was never going to happen with obviously the game that Tino had. So you were involved on the match preview as well, and there was a couple of comments on the match preview with saying that you lads are negative and things like that. And yes, you've got to have a sense of realism, but you should be a little bit more upbeat when it comes to Newcastle United as well. If we're looking at the game overall, Dan, do you think now we should have probably been a little bit more hopeful in the lads because they're decent, aren't they?
Oh, I've never. Well, this was a sort of one of the strange things that I thought about it because I sort of went on a couple of minute sort of speech about how amazing we've done. Like what we've achieved is absolutely class. We're a pot 4 team, and we are mixing it in the group of death. We are 6th in the league. When I think for anyone that watched the documentary on Amazon, one of the things that they said was how teams drop off as soon as they have to compete in Europe. We saw that Leicester won the league and nearly got relegated the next year. Teams drop off when it comes to this standard, and other teams know how to play against them. So that's something that is to be expected when it comes to this level, and yet we aren't really falling foul of it so much. So I am a realist. I think that we've done exceptionally well. I said that we've done well so far, but we're going away to a team who, in the 2 home games, won 2-0 and 3-0 respectively, against teams that we haven't beat yet. So, yeah, there was a sense of realism there. I also said that we have to go in with excitement for the game. We've not been here in so long. I still went in excited. I still go in believing we can win. But when I've got to come out in public and articulate thought over feeling, sometimes you've got to go, well, look, you've got to line these ducks up in a row. Also, I said we'd batter Dortmund twice, and look what look what's happened there.
That is true. Ian, just to quickly go through the game itself, because once again, the people tuning into this are probably tuning in for one certain thing which happened in the game. But I think we knew that it was going to be backs against the wall for a lot of that game. PSG have a great squad, even more so at home as well. And probably the thought they need to get one up on us after we embarrassed them at St James's Park. And it certainly started that way as well. Newcastle had to weather a storm for a little bit.
Yeah, I think within the first 40 seconds, they had 2 crosses that went in that looked a bit dangerous. And obviously, the first couple of minutes, you expect teams to come out of the box, particularly at home, particularly when it's PSG. I personally didn't think they would be able to keep that sort of tempo up. And then it got sort of 10 minutes in, and it just felt like it was going to be a long, long afternoon or a long, long evening. I think it was around about 8 minutes when Mbappe did that sort of like flick and Pope saved. It was absolutely remarkable save, by the way. And I think Nick Pope was probably man of the match for me last night. And we'll maybe touch on some of his other saves. But I thought throughout the first half, although PSG had the most of it, I felt like we were quite clever with how we approached it. Obviously, given that the same 11 pretty much played, I'd say a good 3/4 plus on Saturday against Chelsea. That same 11 are probably going to have to play 90 minutes against Man U on Saturday. I thought we were quite clever in sort of setting the traps and when to press and when not to press. And obviously got a good chance. I think it was around about 15 minutes in with Isak. Again, Almiron presses him, presses really well in the corner. I think that's off Hakimi. Nicks it, puts the ball in, and he skies it.
Yeah, obviously that high press, that's obviously quite a lot, isn't it? think he might have froze. Daniel, that's the high press.
I was like,
was
that me
quite
that's
a lot,
frozen? Is it Ian?
No, that
I
high
don't know
press.
what's going on.
Fuck knows what just happened there.
We've learned to see this from Eddie Howe's high press, isn't it? And that was a prime example of what happens when we push up the field. Miggy nicks the ball. He's just relentless at the ankles, and he wins the ball back. It's a great ball in from Miggy as well. Isaac should probably be doing a little bit better, but obviously it's tough.
Yeah, I think he's got to hit the target at the very least, but it came at him quick. It's tough to get over, especially when he's quite lanky. But I think him looking back on that, probably feel he has to hit the target. But it's also worth remembering that if that goes in, nothing else happens in the game the same way again. That's how things work. So it's not a case of, we should be 2-0 up because it happened prior. If that one goes in, then it's a completely different game. And the first goal that we did score doesn't happen in the same way that it does. So it's one of them. I think for me, probably a little bit more frustrating was that second half, the very, very beginning of the second half, where he's been played through beautifully, such a well-weighted ball. And he dallies, he tries to go left and right, and it's too clever. I think Ali McCoy said it perfectly on commentary. He's got his half a yard. He earned that half a yard. Put your foot through it. We know that you can kick a ball. Just do it. Chance your arm. It can fly into the top corner. We saw Fabian Schär do it in the home game. But the keeper saves it. The keeper has been really poor. He was really poor on Friday night in the league against Monaco. He had a howler for our goal. He might parry it right back out to you. He might make a worldy save and it goes out for a corner. He might miss, but who knows? I think you've earned your half a yard. Put your foot through it and just see what happens. I think that one was, for me, more frustrating than the first miss.
Yeah, you mentioned the keeper's error, which led to our goal. Miggy takes the shot. Miggy does well to get the shot away. Then the keeper just parries it in the air away. You're probably not supposed to parry it to Ian, and it's bread and butter for Isaac. But then credit to Isaac for being aware that chance could possibly fall to him. He's the first one to react. He's in there on the 6-yard box. Thank you very much. Newcastle 1-0 up. And at that point, Ian, I'm on cloud nine. I'm thinking we saw what happens to PSG when they go a goal down and they can crumble. And I was expecting exactly that to happen again. I'm not sure what you thought at that point.
I couldn't quite believe that I had taken the lead, quite frankly. I went in not optimistic in this game at all. Like I say, I'm apologies if I cut out before. No idea what's going on with my Wi-Fi. It's back in the nuclear bunker. But yeah, I thought the goal was really well worked. I think Tino does very, very well. Sort of, he holds on to the ball for, it seems like, 5 minutes and just runs across their box. Miggy gets it. What I really liked was Miley's movement. He sort of runs off Miggy and takes, I think it was Hernandez, takes him sort of out of the equation so Miggy can get his shot off. So it's a really well worked goal. And I thought, after that, our tails were up a little bit. Obviously, we didn't create a huge amount of chances after that. There was that ball that went over the top. Isaac's chasing, and I think it is. I'm not sure. Skriniar, I think he defends it well, but I think he gets a bit fortunate because he rolls over the ball and literally holds onto it. And obviously, we'll come to it in a second. I don't know how that's not looked at. Isaac's going ballistic, but I think on another day, if it falls right for Isaac there, that's 2-0, and that's a long way to come back, even if you are PSG at home, just with how resolute we are. But yeah, I went in sort of half time, very, very impressed with it. But my concern was obviously the second half, which it was just like the Alamo from about 60, 65 minutes onwards. And then because we had no one on the bench, you could tell it was just people were running through treacle by the end of it, and they looked absolutely knackered.
It was relentless, and I just want to go back a second there, Tan, to the event which happened just before halftime, what Ian highlighted there as well, where obviously PSG player that falls on the deck there, and it does the ball stops movement towards Isaac because of his hands there. Obviously, we know for fine well it is accidental. You can't really prevent that from happening. But I honestly thought that could have been given as a free kick there, if I'm being completely honest with you. No intentional whatsoever. Of course, I'm not saying that there was, but that's a goal scoring opportunity from Isaac if that ball's allowed to run.
I think for the rules, it's not a handball because the ball's on the deck. Skriniar's making a falling motion, and he has to put his hand down, and the ball's caught between his hand and the ground. He's not made a legit an actual attempt to get it.
Like a swipe.
I think according to the rules, it's the right decision not to give a foul or anything like that.
But we know we don't play by the rules in this game.
But this is it. It's hard to keep your head when you see the rule later on. That's obviously all of our frustration. But I also think it's important to try and not let emotion take over and to see individual incidents as they happen and as they come, and to say, look, I genuinely do not think that's a free kick because of the rules.
Yeah.
Just like I don't think Tino's is a handball because of the rules. And it's just, it's a bitter pill to swallow in the end. I thought Skriniar did quite well to recover. And yeah, he's got lucky. He has got lucky in the end as he's fallen on at the ball. But can you imagine if that was given against us? I mean, we're all kicking off because of the Tino thing, rightly so, absolutely rightly so. Yeah. Can you imagine if that happened against us? We'd all be kicking off with that. And I think it's important to take that into consideration for context.
Yeah, of course it is. Before we get on to that talking point with the Tino handball as well, I don't want any credit to be taken away from what the lads did in the second half, because that was a defensive display that should be displayed in a museum. It was phenomenal. Nick Pope was unbelievable. I know Nick Pope has came under a lot of criticism for his distribution of the ball. We saw it again in the PSG game where it goes out of touch, but Jesus Christ, did he make up for it last night with the saves that he was pulling off, because every single one of those, Daniel, was top draw. Every single one of them. And like Ian said, man of the match performance for Nick Pope.
I don't disagree with the man of the match shout. I think ironically enough, it's a tough call, probably between him and Tino. I thought the pair of them were exceptional. I thought Trippier, how he dealt with Mbappe in the first half was magnificent. I thought a lot of them were. I was actually again quite critical of Lascelles at the weekend. His overall performance. I know he scored, and then he's turned out a performance like that against PSG. I thought that might be the best he's played. I thought he was so good. And they've created a lot of chances. We did ride our luck, but also Nick Pope trains every day to make those saves. And we know what he's about in terms of his shot stop. We know that's his strength. So there's nothing to be surprised about in that respect. But then even that one save in the second half, I thought it was in. The commentator thought it was in. I was wondering why the ball, like the net wasn't bulging. I thought my glasses were dirty, or is this an optical illusion? And then you see it's wide, and I had to watch it again to just understand how that's happened. It was absolutely sensational. Like I said,
it's instinctive save, isn't it? It comes off his knee.
Yeah, and I agree with Ian. The Mbappe save with his legs is really underrated. How many times you see that go through a keeper's legs? They're just slow to react. Yeah. I think Mbappe has made the wrong decision there to try that fancy flick. I understand why a lot of players would try that in that situation, but I think he's got time to just hit it, to be honest. Trying to be a bit too clever, and Nick Pope's done really, really well with it. We did concede a lot of chances. I think on the balance of play, if we're being honest, they could have scored. They missed 2 or 3 absolute howlers that went, basically they went wide. They went wider over the bar. So we're all look in that sense. But I think sometimes you earn your luck, and people will look at, I mean, I've seen people on Twitter with XG this and XG that, which XG is a useful tool in certain circumstances. It's beneficial across a number of games, not one. But when you consider the context behind it, 16 players out, we had 1 day less rest than PSG because the French Football Association allowed them to play on the Friday. We have not been able to name all substitutes. We have 2 of those being goalkeepers. We've got Wallsend Boys Club on the bench. For them to do what they did and to have that spirit and to just basically go back to old school defending, throwing your body on the line, the commitment. Regardless of what happened, you feel nothing but pride for them.
That's going to be mentally draining as well, Daniel. I don't think many people have been highlighting this because those lads going into that game probably knew they were going to have to dig deep for a full 90 minutes plus, and the chances of a substitution coming on the field was slim to none unless it was an injury or something like that. Eddie Howe's probably made them aware that, lads, I'm depending on you tonight to get us through this because, like you mentioned, X amount of players injured, down to the bare bones. And that's what makes that defensive the performance even more spectacular for me. Known for fine well, they are drained. I think it was 10 minutes into the second half. Anthony Gordon just looked like he was running in mud. He looked absolutely shattered. And he still goes on and lasts another 40 minutes after that.
Yeah, it was just really impressive from all of them. I do think that maybe Lewis Hall could have came on for one of the forward players and played in that position just to help for legs, but also he is defensively sound. You wouldn't want to bring him on for a fullback. You wouldn't want him up against Mbappe or Dembele. I think you get
Eddie Howe addressed that, didn't he? I think that question was asked to Eddie Howe after the game, and he said they were defending so well, he felt as if by bringing somebody else on in that sort of position could have ruined the whole dynamics of what was happening.
You definitely would not want to do that.
PSG.
But I'd back him to track Lucas Hernandez or maybe even Hakimi, because I think for me Miggy looked injured. He got 2 whacks from Ugar. I think for one of them. I think he should have been. I personally thought it should be 2 good ones. The first one and the second, but you got the second one was a horrible whack, and he looked like he was struggling. Fair play to Miggy for continuing for the full game, but I feel like not because of his performance. I thought Miggy was outstanding, absolutely outstanding last night, but just for his own health and to get about the pitch, it looked like he was really struggling. I perhaps should have brought Lewis Hall on at right wing personally, just to track Lucas Hernandez, and also we can punt it long and he can chase it because Isak was tired up front. We couldn't get out, and I just thought that could have been something. That's a nitpick and a half, isn't it? Overall, ultimately I probably would have, like I said, 2-0 before the game. No other teams got a sniff when they were there. Like, we'll have to take the positives out of everything, including the performance. And Lewis Miley doing what he did. I think it's also worth noting the cost of like their subs that they were bringing on. For Charlo Ramos on the bench, I'm sure he's 80 million quid or something from Benfica. They got Asensio on a free, but from Real Madrid. Asensio scored in the Champions League final. He's a quality player. He actually had a bad game when he came on, but it's because he's just came back from injury at the start of the season. He was their top goal scorer when everyone else wasn't performing. So he's a good player. And they had other players to bring on that they play for the French champions. They're very good players. And we had to contend with that. So nothing but pride. And overall, actually, before the game, if you said, Dan, 1-1 away to Paris, I'd snap your hand off.
Of course you would. I think every fan was in the same thoughts, but of course you're going to take that result. But obviously the way that the result panned out towards the end of the game, then obviously that's the main talking point and the main concern. And let's just talk about it now. So when I saw it happen in real time, okay, when I see it happen, I thought, yes, it's a penalty, because from that angle which we could see, the ball just hit his hand. Okay. Then when the referee gets called over at VAR, and we see the replays, as soon as I see that ball hit his chest, then move onto his hand, I started celebrating. I was going, get in, that's not a penalty. There's no chance that's a penalty getting awarded. Little did I know that the referee hadn't really done his job properly. And despite a very similar incident happening earlier on in the game, he's obviously called over to the monitor to review this one. And it doesn't take him long to make his decision. And he points to the penalty spot in the 98th minute of the game. What's your thought process there? Are you as spitting feathers like me? Because I was not happy when that got awarded.
When I first saw it, I thought it was one of them. I was like, "Who's he going to give that?" But I didn't think it was a pen because of proximity. He's lashed it at him from less than a yard away, and he's put a ball in, and he's just running, and it's hit his arm. But I know how fickle referees can be, and I just thought, oh, he's running away, it's fine. And then they said the VAR watch, and I thought, well, it'll be the same as the Miley one. It's like, oh, he's actually going to go over. I thought, oh, here we go. It must be clear as day, pen. Exactly the same as you. See the replay, and I'm like, that's not a pen. Ali McCoy's, no way is that a pen. I'm like, it's not a pen. Come on, lads. He points to the spot, and I think I was too confused to be angry. I was very apathetic towards it. I was like, I can't really quite comprehend this. Again, I felt earlier on with Rodar look at times, missed a couple of sitters, and I just thought, it was as soon as they put 8 minutes up, I just thought, oh, God, here we go. This is it, isn't it?
And it seemed to be, people haven't really paid much attention to that, Daniel, the 8 minutes which were added on, because, yes, we normally see big chunks of stoppage time getting added on.
Where did that come from?
If we had made our substitutions, that that was it. That was the only thing that took a little bit down. Nick Pope was trying his luck towards the end of the game, but 8 minutes was crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's the second time we've been done by 8 minutes as well, isn't it? Liverpool last year.
I wasn't going to mention that, mate.
It was an absolute sickener when I was watching it, and I couldn't believe it had happened. And I just thought, is this going to be one of them where it's in doubt, not in doubt? I don't know why it made me feel better seeing basically everyone that isn't a PSG fan or an Arsenal fan agree with us. Like, a lot of them have went, oh yeah, you've been robbed. And I just thought, well, that happens in football. It does happen. We've been robbed before. We'll be robbed again. We've had good decisions against teams. And I think it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. But we've all commended Eddie Howe for how he's behaved afterwards with his post-match interview. Isak as well. Have to trust the officials. I haven't seen it. And I think if we commend our manager and our player for behaving in that way, then I think it's important that we also behave in that way. We can say the referee got it wrong. He's had a mare. Let's move on. We've got Man United the weekend. And let's take our anger and frustration and put it into the crowd at St. James's Park on Saturday night. And because we need the win at Milan, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but because we need that, I feel like the fans are more focused. They'll be more focused on, we've just got to win this game, no if, buts, or maybes. Instead of this, we need a draw. Do you play for a draw? Do you go for the win? All these sort of questions. Are we nervous? It's not in our hands. Go for the win. Just that single-minded thought. And people want optimism. Mathematically, obviously, it's done us no favours. But I think in terms of mentality-wise, one problem with us, I find at times, as a fan base and as a team, is when we don't know whether to stick or twist. We saw it at Liverpool when we're 1-0 up against 10 men. When we came out, we didn't know whether we were going to defend it or attack it. We kind of got caught in the middle, got caught out. When we're single-minded and driven, and the fans don't have to think too much about, should we get this win? Should we play for the draw and go through? It's just, now we need to win. This is it. I feel as a team and as a fan base, we are much better mentally for that. Just go for it. And again, mathematically, it's in a worse position, but I think mentally, this can be a positive. And we'll have to say that we can't change the result. We can't change the decision. We can piss and moan as much as we want, but all we've done is laugh at Arsenal for the last 3 weeks for them still crying about a subjective decision. Let's be better than that. Let's follow our manager, who we all absolutely adore, and have a bit of dignity about it and just get behind the lads for the next game. But it's a disgraceful decision.
Have you ever seen that sort of reaction globally, though, from media outlets, presenters, ex-professionals, fans, whoever it may be, where every single player in person is in agreement?
Ironically enough, I blame myself for this, Chris. So I'm sorry to every single Newcastle fan for this. After our goal, I tweeted a poll: who would you rather have in their prime, Livramento or Diego Maradona? And I didn't mean it in terms of controversial handballs. And that's the time that springs to mind when Diego Maradona handballed in the net. So I feel like I've manifested some bad juju there. I'm really sorry, everyone. I just meant it because he mugged off 6 Parisians. But yeah, it's very rare that you get a decision that is globally just like even lots of like PSG fans have just kept quiet about it. It's mainly Arsenal fans who are still bitter about the Joe Linton shove. I think is what they've all settled on as the main issue for that goal. And they're two totally different situations anyway. But yeah, it's I think it does soften the blow a little bit, like that. We don't feel like we're crazy. No one's gaslighting us into thinking, "Oh, of course it was a penalty." It's just, look, you were robbed. Okay, let's move on. I don't know how you feel about it.
You know what it was? Well, it was great. It was great to see the emotion from Ali McGuice as well, because everything he was saying was what I was thinking and screaming at the same time as well.
Yeah.
And the way he handles the Eddie Howe reaction afterwards, the interview afterwards, is great. He literally says the words so Eddie Howe doesn't have to say them. And it's him and Jermaine Jameson saying, no, don't worry about that. We'll obviously throw the criticism here. You just obviously go along with what we're saying in that interview. Is great. Eddie Howe it's kind of little backhand digs, which he's doing at the officials, so he'll probably get away with that. But do you know what it is? We're back in a situation where I don't necessarily want to use the Arsenal game and the goal against Arsenal as the comparison here, because, like we said, that was subjective. Of course, it was. That was just an opinion. We have literally just been robbed of a decision there. A decision that's knocked us down that group, which has put our chances of qualifying a hell of a lot harder now. Of course, it has. It's a really tough one to take. It really wasn't. You know what it is? Last night after the game, I thought, go to bed, sleep it off, and it took us ages to get to sleep because it was just keep going round and round. And this morning I wake up feeling exactly the same as well. So God knows how the players feel.
Yeah. Eddie Howe obviously said they're feeling flat. I hope they're not. Like, I appreciate why they'd feel flat, but they were excellent. I think we all love them, and Tino put out, "Oh, thank you for coming. Didn't get the results. Sorry, blah blah," and everyone's just positivity, no negativity towards those players. They know they were robbed, and I think sometimes there's a resilience in that. I think sometimes when you know you've been hard done by, you come together and you're closer, and you've got that extra bite in the next game. So you have to turn it into a positive. You can sit there and cry, lick your wounds, or you can come out fighting. And I think this is a group of players that would do that. I was exactly the same as you, Chris. I was knackered. I went to the gym, watched the game. By half time, all the endorphins from the gym had worn off, and I was shattered. My legs had gone. I was absolutely exhausted. Went to bed at about midnight, 12:30. I didn't get a sleep till 4:45.
Yeah.
I was absolutely shattered. And I was thinking about the whole game, thinking about the incident, thinking about the permutations, thinking about what could happen with this mini existential crisis in bed. And it's one of them where it's out of our hands, not in terms of club, but like even as fans, like it's done. We have to try and use it as fuel for the fire for the next few games.
I think you summed it up perfectly.
That's what I recommend everyone do.
You've summed it up perfectly, and I hope people that are listening or watching to this one didn't come along just for us to be absolutely spitting at the camera and kicking right off, because
the ref's shite. He's shite.
Exactly. You're not going to get that. Obviously, we've seen the VAR official has been dropped anyway, so he was on duty as well. So he's been dropped.
So
exactly.
Awful, but
they've handled that. We know nothing's going to ever happen going forward in regard to that game. It's done. It's happened. We need to move on. We need to, like you said, we need to channel that anger and frustration now as a fan base and as a football club as well into the next game, being Man United. Then again, when AC Milan come to town as well. And I just hope that has give people listening and watching this that a slightly other angle to it as well. That we've just got to do exactly the same as what the players, what the squad, what the club have done, and what Eddie Howe has done as well, and just hold our head up high and realise we gave them a good game. We almost took all 3 points in a stadium where they are in a fantastic football club, and because of a refereeing error, a huge refereeing error, that's what's killed it for us, and that's where we have to take pride in those lads, because the 11 lads that were on the field were absolutely magnificent. They were legends, them.
Aye, absolutely class. It's a it was a great night. That's what we're here for. We want to be involved in these games, and it's just context is so important with what we're going through as a club in terms of the injuries and suspensions at the minute. The fact that, look, we know we're class, but let's be honest, we're a fourth pot team. As I mentioned earlier, we see how teams drop off anyway with a full squad, and we're up in the group of death. And for us to be going into the match, if I said before the group started, when we were all doing that, the reaction from the group got drawn, we're like, oh, like, I was celebrating, I was crying, what's going on? If I said to you, Chris, right, match day 6, we get through to match day 6, and we'll have to win the game, but we've got a chance of going through the next round, would you take it?
Yeah, of course you would.
Everyone would bite your hand off. And it's the manner in which this has happened that is wound us all up.
Yeah.
But it's happened, and it's time to move on. And that's all we can do. And it's sickening, but you have to do it.
It's a killer. It's an absolute killer. Thanks, everybody who has been joining us for this one. Thanks very much. We will be back for more match predictions as well. Obviously, we've got Man United coming up at the weekend, 8 o'clock kickoff for that one as well. So fingers crossed that the lads will be full of positivity going into that game as well. And this result hasn't flattened them too much. Like I said, we will be back with that match preview as well, and plenty more stuff coming. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Ta-ra.
Yeah.